All right, let's dive right into this explainer and explore a genuinely fascinating economic mystery. Why do human beings consistently defy standard mathematical logic by caring so deeply about fairness? For decades, traditional models just assumed we were Homo economicus, these perfectly rational, purely self-interested calculating machines. Honestly, standard theory basically assumes humans are borderline sociopaths who only care about maximizing their own payouts. But as we're going to see today, real human behavior is wonderfully, defiantly different.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We're taking this from one-on-one laboratory games to the power of punishment, cross-cultural norms, 3 specific models of fairness, and then zooming way out to see how all of this impacts global labor and consumer markets. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The Ultimatum Game. We are kicking things off with a foundational experiment that absolutely shatters the myth of pure self-interest.
Okay, I want you to really put yourself in this scenario because your answer here is the key to unlocking how human economies actually work. Imagine you and I are anonymously paired up to split 10 pounds. I get to propose the split. If you say yes, we both get the money. But if you say no, we both get absolutely nothing. So would you ever say no to free money? I mean, it sounds completely irrational to literally set your own cash on fire just to spite a total stranger, right?
Well, standard economic theory predicts that the proposer should offer the absolute bare minimum, say just 1 single penny, and keep the rest for themselves. Why? Because a purely rational responder should eagerly accept that penny. After all, mathematically speaking, 1 penny is infinitely better than 0. But the actual lab results are shockingly different.
Just look at how these numbers shake out in reality. Proposers usually offer a highly equitable 40 to 50% of the total pie. And when they don't, when proposers get greedy and offer less than 20%, responders eagerly reject those lowball offers at rates over 40%, meaning people will literally pay their own money just to punish unfairness.
But hold on a second, this brings up a massive question. Are proposers offering 50% because they're genuinely kind people, or because they are absolutely terrified of being rejected and getting nothing? Enter the dictator game. Here, researchers remove the responder's ability to reject entirely. The proposer just dictates the split, end of story. And guess what? Even with the threat of rejection completely gone, proposers still give away about 20% on average. So the crucial takeaway here is that while some fairness is definitely strategic self-preservation, humans still possess a genuine inherent preference for fairness. We actually do care about the other person's outcome.
Section 2. The power of punishment. Let's see what happens when we scale this up from 2 individuals to larger groups dealing with collective action problems like paying taxes or protecting the environment.
In what we call public goods games, a group contributes to a shared pool that multiplies their money. And initially, it's great. Contributions sit beautifully at 40 to 60%. But as the game repeats, players inevitably notice the free riders, the folks taking the benefits without chipping in. Once cooperative players realize they're being played for fools, contributions just plummet to 0. The whole system completely unravels into a classic tragedy of the commons.
But then, researchers Fair and Gechter threw in a brilliant, seemingly irrational twist, a punishment option. Players could now spend their own money to reduce a free rider's payoff. Now, standard models swear up and down that no one would ever take a personal financial hit to enforce a group rule. But people did it anyway. It's called altruistic punishment. And the craziest part? When you give people this mathematically irrational option to punish free riders, cooperation is dramatically restored and sustained. We are basically hardwired to police our social norms. Section 3. Cross-cultural norms. So is this fairness glitch biologically hardwired into every human brain on Earth, or is it shaped by the specific society we live in?
To figure this out, researcher Joseph Henrich and his team took the ultimatum game on the road to 15 small-scale societies all over the world. And the results brilliantly show the impact of culture. The Mochiganga people of Peru, who have very little market integration, offered a super low 26%. But over in Indonesia, the Lamalera people, whose entire livelihood depends on highly cooperative, large-scale whale hunting, they regularly offered more than 50%. Meanwhile, the Aw and Gnau tribes in Papua New Guinea actually rejected hyperfair offers above 50%, because in their specific culture, accepting a massive gift creates an unwanted social debt. It just goes to show, our baseline for what's fair isn't strictly universal. It's deeply constructed by our everyday economic realities.
Moving to Section 4, Models of Fairness. If the traditional, perfectly selfish models are wrong, we really need new math to capture this messy human behavior.
Here is a high-level comparison of the three major theoretical frameworks economists use today. You've got the Farr-Schmidt model, focusing on outcomes and inequality aversion. Rabin focuses purely on intentions and reciprocity. And the Charnas-Rabin framework elegantly blends all of this together by looking at weighted social welfare, factoring in your own payoff, the total group payoff, and throwing a specific lifeline to whoever is the worst off person. Let's unpack those first two a bit more.
So the Farr-Schmidt model translates all this into a pretty elegant utility formula. Essentially, your utility equals your financial payoff, minus an alpha parameter for the pain of being behind and a beta parameter for the discomfort of being ahead. Crucially, their model proves that alpha is strictly greater than beta, meaning mathematically, the pain of being behind hurts far more than the guilt of being ahead. We dislike inequality, sure, but we absolutely hate being on the losing end of it.
But actually, scratch that. Farr-Schmidt has a glaring blind spot. It totally ignores intentions. What if someone gives you a terrible deal, but they literally didn't have a choice? This step-by-step breakdown of the Blount-constrained offer game illustrates this perfectly. If the rules legally force the proposer to only offer you 2 pounds out of 10, the outcome is still highly unequal. Farr-Schmidt predicts you'd reject it. But in reality, when responders know the proposer had a gun to their head, rejection rates absolutely plummet. The offer gets accepted. This proves Rabin's intention-based model right. People don't just hate unequal outcomes, they specifically hate unkind intentions. If you aren't trying to cheat me, I won't punish you.
Okay, Section 5, Fairness in Labor Markets. Let's leave the laboratory completely behind and apply these models to a massive real-world mystery, your paycheck. Think about this. During a recession, when unemployment spikes, companies mathematically should slash their employees' wages. Supply and demand, right? But they rarely ever do, creating what economists call nominal wage rigidity. George Akerlof explains this brilliantly through the gift exchange hypothesis. Employment isn't just a transaction, it's a social relationship governed by reciprocity. If a firm pays above the bare minimum, workers view that as a gift and respond with above minimum effort. Slashing pay totally violates this norm of reciprocity, and companies know that doing so would absolutely devastate employee morale and productivity.
Finally, Section 6, the dual entitlement norm. Let's flip over to consumer markets to understand why certain pricing strategies trigger absolute, undeniable public outrage. Heavyweight researchers Kahneman, Knetsch, and Thaler established what they called the dual entitlement norm. Basically, we humans evaluate prices based on what we've come to expect as the fair everyday standard in a given market. We call that the reference transaction. We believe that firms are entirely entitled to their baseline profit, but as consumers, we firmly believe we are entitled to that reference price. So how does this actually play out in real life? Well, if a local hardware store raises the price of a snow shovel because their wholesale costs just went up, consumers usually judge that as totally fair. The store is just protecting its baseline profit. But if that exact same store raises prices simply because a massive blizzard just hit and everyone desperately needs a shovel, consumers view that as deeply, almost unforgivably exploitative. As we see today with companies like Uber, exploiting a sudden supply shock might be perfectly rational to balance supply and demand on paper, but the massive consumer backlash functions as an incredibly powerful informal price regulation. So, from literally burning our own money in the ultimatum game, to paying out of pocket to police free riders, to boycotting search pricing, it's incredibly clear that human beings are deeply motivated by fairness and shared norms. And I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Is standard economic theory fundamentally broken? Are we really measuring success correctly if we evaluate a policy based purely on cold hard efficiency while totally ignoring the very social preferences that make us human? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning those models.